Israel's called all of America anti-Semites.
Guess what?
85% of us don't want this war. And then you come in and go, you dirty anti-Semite Americans. You owe us more war. You owe us trillions of dollars. We are beloved Israel. We want endless wars.
One question for you, Cenk. One question for you. What percentage of Germans were anti-Semites?
What the hell does that have to do with this? The real fascists are Israel.
Is that really a gotcha?
You want to ask me what percentage of Israel are fascists? Unfortunately, the percentage is over 50%.
What happens when two political commentators who almost never agree suddenly unite against the same opponents? You get the kind of debate that completely spirals out of control. This isn't one of those slow, predictable political discussions where everyone politely waits their turn. Within moments, the temperature rises, voices get louder, and every argument becomes more intense than the last. By the end, it feels less like a debate and more like a political showdown that neither side is willing to lose. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Today's exchange brings together Cenk Uygur and Dave Smith, two people who usually stand on opposite ends of the political spectrum. On most issues, they're fierce critics of each other. But this time, they unexpectedly find themselves pushing back against two outspoken defenders of Israel's position, creating an alliance that very few people saw coming. And that's where things take a dramatic turn. As the conversation unfolds, the pressure keeps building. Every claim is challenged. Every answer is met with another question. Neither side is willing to back down, and the atmosphere becomes more intense with every passing minute. Then Cenk Uygur shifts into another gear. He comes out with relentless energy, challenging almost every point made by his opponents and refusing to let the discussion move on without a response. Whether you agree with his politics or not, it's hard to look away once he gets going. Dave Smith is equally determined, adding his own sharp criticisms and keeping the momentum alive. Together, they turn what could have been an ordinary panel discussion into one of those political exchanges that has people replaying key moments and arguing about them long after the video ends. But here's the real question. When the emotions settle and the talking stops, who actually made the stronger case? Who relied on solid arguments and who struggled when their views came under pressure? Watch the entire exchange carefully, because some of the biggest moments happen when you least expect them. Once it's over, we'll break it all down, separate the emotion from the arguments, and see which side truly stood its ground. Let's get straight into it.
Turning now to my panel is the founder and CEO of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, the Iranian-American attorney and activist Elika Lebon, and former Canadian lawmaker and Iran activist Goldie Gamari, and Dave Smith will be joining us shortly. So welcome to all of you. Elika Lebon, it looks increasingly... Well, welcome back to Uncensored, first of all.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Just in terms of where we are with this, the scale of the build-up of the military on the United States side suggests that a military strike is almost inevitable. Is that a good thing?
Yes, it is absolutely a good thing. We have a regime who we've just witnessed committing an unprecedented massacre, one of the worst atrocities in modern times. And there really is no way for this regime to go down by just simply relying on the Iranian people. They do not have weapons. They do not have any means to take this regime out. The idea that the Iranian people should free themselves is as absurd as saying a person who is kidnapped and held hostage in somebody's basement without any weapons should free themselves. And so there really is no other means to take this regime out. And so now we're in a position where this regime has gone as far as it can possibly go. It's funded its proxies across the Middle East. It has supported massacres such as October 7th. It has shown unrelentless signs of committing its empire expansion across the Middle East. It has embedded and entrenched in its ideology its intent to do so. It has killed Israelis, Iranians, even Muslims, and there really is no better solution for humanity than to remove this regime with targeted strikes on military bases, which, by the way, is a rescue operation and really doesn't need to be framed as a war.
Cenk Uygur, welcome back to Uncensored. Always good to have you. When I hear someone like Elika talking in such a emotive way about this, I completely understand why a lot of people who have a vested personal interest in Iran and have so many people they know there, obviously, feel this strongly about it. But I'm skeptical when I hear people like John Bolton, because it reminds me exactly of the build-up to the Iraq War, which I opposed as editor of the Daily Mirror in the UK. I led the media campaign against it over here and was very sad and angry when I failed in that campaign. I wish I'd been successful. But it's the same kind of jungle drums beating. And the problem is, once you go into a place like Iraq, as it turned out, or now Iran, then it's very hard to control the sequence of events that follows. I don't see this as being as clean a situation as, say, Venezuela, where you just take out Maduro and everyone goes home. I think this could be a real hornet's nest.
Yeah. So Young Turks is the longest running show in online history. So we were on the air during the Iraq War buildup, and we were one of only 2 national shows screaming, no, don't do it. Don't listen to people like John Bolton. The neocons have always been wrong, preposterously wrong. They said, oh, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. It's so dangerous. We have to go in. They said it was connected to 9/11. It was all lies. Now here comes the same liars lying to us again on behalf of Israel and saying, oh, my God, Iran is so dangerous. Weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, that's the ticket. We'll use that same BS argument. And then the second argument coming from John Bolton and the Israelis is hilarious. We care so much about the Iranian people. Those Muslim lives mean so much to Israel and to the neocons. That's why we have to bomb them and kill them. Get out of here. Nonsense. So look, for the folks on here who are Iranian, there are plenty of Persians who say, yeah, we hate this current government. I don't blame them for that. I have great sympathy for them in that regard. But you could say, hey, the Iranian people would like this. Trust me, bro. Maybe. The Israelis can say, we demand another war in the Middle East on our behalf. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq, and that one cost you a couple of $1 trillion, and hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. But we demand that America listen to our orders again, and that's exactly what they're doing. Or we can listen to the American people. How is this a difficult choice? You cited a poll where 70% of Americans said we don't want this. There's another poll out that says 85%. So if we were having a panel here that was representative of the American people, it would be at least 8 people saying, no, don't go in, it has nothing to do with us, and 2 people going, yeah, we need it for Iran, and 1 person for Iran, and 1 person going, we need it for Israel. So we don't need it at all. It's going to be an epic disaster if we get in. Unfortunately, the president's a bit of a child, so the Israelis lead him around by the nose. Attack their sites. No, get their uranium. No, get their ballistic missiles. No, make sure they don't support the proxy groups. Constantly pushing the American people into their stupid, endless wars where we waste so many lives and the entire American treasure. We did $8 trillion on the global war on Israel's enemies. Enough. Serve America. Going into this war would be absolute madness, and it would turn into disaster. On behalf of the American people, I say loudly, no.
Okay, Goldie Gamara, you fled Iran as a toddler. So no one is more personally invested in its future than somebody like you. What is your response to Cenk Uygur?
I mean, this whole Jews control the world trope is just becoming very old. This is, please don't interrupt me, Cenk. I let you spout your jihadi propaganda. I don't have the time or patience to deal with your nonsense. So if you, all right, you know what? Pierce, I actually just sent you a clip of the Islamic regime, state TV, airing your interview from last time where they are defending Cenk and they're attacking me. I just sent that clip to your producers. So, you have to ask yourself, when you have the Islamic regime defending the arguments of someone like Cenk, it makes you wonder, is Cenk working for the regime or is he being a useful idiot for them? All I'm saying is that, these anti-Semitic tropes, no one's buying them anymore. Ultimately, the Iranian people have made it very clear what they want. And as you can see, the fact that even I'm speaking is threatening Cenk so much that he feels the need to laugh and interrupt. But, I do not listen to the words, or I don't even want to legitimize the words of anyone who is being defended by the Islamic regime, because you don't go on the Islamic regime state TV unless you're basically sanctioned by Khamenei. So it's very strange to me that someone who claims that they're America first is being defended by the Islamic regime.
Well, to be clear, I don't think Cenk has gone on
They're the biggest
Iranian
in the
state
world.
TV. They've used a clip of him, right? He hasn't
Exactly.
gone on
They used a clip of him to defend his arguments about how Israel is behind everything. So again, when your arguments line up with the most brutal dictatorship,
does that mean we agree with you?
When the Islamic regime is basically relying on the arguments of someone like Cenk Uygur, especially with these anti-Semitic tropes, I think it just goes to show how strange the situation is.
Okay, let me bring in Dave Smith. Dave Smith, welcome back to. Welcome back
you're
to
all anti-Semites if you don't go to war for Israel. Yeah, nobody's buying that crap anymore. Go fight your own wars. Besides which, you obviously work for the Israelis. So why should we listen to anyone who works for the Israelis?
Cenk, last time I checked, your name is not Cenk. Your name is not Dave Smith. You may like it to be, but it's not.
No.
So let me come to the actual Dave Smith.
No, I'm good with
Dave. I'm seeing a lot of this pushback actually from people on the Iranian side saying this whole debate gets quickly framed as this is what Israel wants to do in Iran, when actually there might be perfectly legitimate reasons why the United States, for its own defense and for its own geopolitical reasons, may want to dismantle this Iranian regime. Well, okay, but this is an argument I've seen. What is your response to that argument? That it's not just at Israel's bidding, it actually suits America to do this. And indeed, I've seen people like Saudi Arabia and others saying, they've been reported as saying they're perfectly happy if the US wants to do this.
Well, first off, I'll defend Cenk on say, I don't know. I think I'm the only Jewish guy on the panel here. There's nothing even remotely anti-Semitic about what Cenk said. And obviously, Pierce, there's no, I don't.
Do you speak for the Jews?
No, I think all this, no, I don't. I think actually all this identitarianism is pretty stupid, but I think it was pretty stupid to call Cenk anti-Semitic for saying that obviously Israel. Pierce, it's just completely undeniable that Israel wants this war. Every other week, Netanyahu comes here, and when he does, that's all they talk about. And if you want to say that, look, of all the wars, in fact, John Mearsheimer and Walt wrote that great book, The Israel Lobby, and they had a couple of great anecdotes in there where U.S. officials were saying during the Iraq War to the Israelis, like, hey, shut up, because you're making this look like this is a war for Israel. Like, you don't want to reveal that too much. In this case, this is clearly a war for Israel. That's what the geopolitical motivator is here. And listen, for you guys, I'm an anti-government guy across the board. I'm anti all governments, including the mullahs and the Ayatollah. But if you're actually arguing that U.S. foreign policy moves based on humanitarian impulses, it's just too ridiculous. We back the Saudis in their genocide of the people of Yemen. We back Israel in their genocide of the people of Gaza. We back all types of just brutal regimes. The United Arab Emirates and their role in Sudan right now, that doesn't stop us from backing them. So the idea that this has anything to do with like the treatment of the Iranian people, that's all just ridiculous. It's not about that. And Pierce, all those same people who you correctly stood up and fought against, who wanted to lie us into Iraq, they've all in their own words admitted that Iran has always been the goal, that eventually we get regime change there too. And as far as the idea that, well, we can do a regime change without boots on the ground, it's possible. Maybe they can locate where the Ayatollah is and take him out. And maybe that does, unlike the situation in Venezuela, actually take out the regime. But there's every reason in the world to think that that would be the worst thing for the Iranian people. You look at examples like Libya or Syria, where we were able to orchestrate regime changes without massive numbers of troops on the ground. And it's a disaster for the people. Libya is a failed state to this day. And that is what Benjamin Netanyahu is quite happy to make Iran, because they see that as advantageous to them. And so, yeah, that's all a big part of this, and why any sane American would want to support this policy. It makes no sense. As Cenk said, no one wants this war. None of the other states in the region want it. Europe doesn't want it. Your own country, Pierce, has been given pushback to the U.S. over the last 48 hours about it. The American people don't want it. The only people who want this war are Israel and the Israel lobby, essentially.
That's not true.
Elika, I can see you frowning there, Elika. What's your response to Dave Smith?
First of all, the idea that Israel wants this war and therefore that negates everything else in the universe just proves that this anti-Zionist ideology makes Israel the sun around which they orbit. And when they orbit Israel like the sun, nothing else exists to them anymore. It is perfectly possible for multiple people to align in a shared goal. Of course, Israel wants this war. Why would Israel not want to take out a regime that has been terrorizing them through their proxies, not just for the past 2 years, but for the past decades? Of course, it is in Israel's interest, as it should be, because why wouldn't you want a terrorist state that has an eschatological vision of eliminating you for justice to arrive on earth to be eliminated? Okay, yes, we all understand it is Israel's goal, and good for them that it's their goal. Okay, second of all, the Iranian people also have their own sovereignty, their own national interests in mind, and those are aligned goals. Now, it isn't just the Iranian people, it isn't just the Israeli people. If you do not eliminate the Islamic regime, you end up in a forever war that ultimately implicates the US. And so if you don't want war, you take out this regime. You said you could do diplomacy with the regime all of these years. You tried to do the JCPOA, you tried to do this Obama-style diplomacy, and then what happened down the line? Their proxies just kept getting stronger. They continued to do their attacks all over the Middle East. They did October 7th, and what happened when October 7th happened was that Israel had to go to war with Hamas, and guess what? The US had to be implicated to defend its ally. So if you don't want a forever war, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, you have to eliminate the source of the forever war. You have to eliminate the people. You have to eliminate the people who make war inevitable. Israel has only ever responded to the acts of the regime and its proxies. And to go even further, it was actually very popular at the time to say no to war with Germany, to say no to war with the Nazis. But guess what? All of those deaths that ensued, those were deaths that were made inevitable by the Nazis because they were relentless. You had the peace for our time, the Munich Agreement, where everyone was like, finally, we're going to have peace. Then they invaded Poland. And you can see these people who are ideological extremists will always inevitably pull the entire world into war. So if you are anti-war, fantastic. Let's eliminate this regime so there's no more wars and no more threats to the United States and the rest of the world.
Well, thank you so much, Piers. First of all, I just want to thank the general for his service. And thank all American military for everything they've done to defend democracy and freedom around the world. So thank you for your service, General. So the way that we have to frame this and the way that we have to look at it, Piers, is that right now we are in a forever war with the Islamic regime. And what happened is back in 1979, it was Jimmy Carter and the Democrats that backed the Ayatollah. And that's what basically led to the Islamic coup d'etat. And so right now, Iran is unfortunately a failed state. And so what Iranians are trying to do is, we're trying to rectify the mistake. Is regime change the goal? 100%, absolutely. We Iranians, we have been trying to fix Jimmy Carter's mistake since 1979. And this is the first time since the Islamic regime took over that we actually have a United States president who is standing with the Iranian people, recognizing full well that U.S. and Iranian interests are aligned right now. And by Iranian, I mean the Iranian people. I don't mean the Islamic regime that's occupying us. Because, as the general said, prior to 1979, Iran and the United States were allies. So right now, the country is currently in that failed state situation. And I can say that, Iranians in occupied Iran are incredibly grateful that the United States is coming to help liberate them. This is not a war, Piers. This is not a war. This is a rescue mission. The United States is coming to help rescue 90 million Iranians who have been held hostage by a brutal and savage dictatorship. With respect to what Dave Smith was saying about the proxies, I'll leave that up to the general.
Okay, Elika.
Nonsense.
So when there's these constant examples of where the US has failed in intervention, you have to wonder, why is it that they keep repeating the worst case scenarios? Why don't they talk about the US intervention in Kuwait to stop Iraq's intervention, right? Which actually led to stability in Kuwait. Why don't we talk about Bosnia? Why don't we talk about Kosovo? Why don't we talk about the times where NATO and the US have done tremendous work to bring stability with targeted strikes, okay? The reason that they keep mentioning this is because they want to constantly frame this in the worst case scenario for the US so as to defend the terrorist regime, which makes you wonder why. Second of all, this His claim that we don't want to, intervene in Iran because it's going to be a failed state and it's going to kill hundreds of thousands of people. I'm sorry, you don't care now that it's a failed state. You don't care now how many people are being killed. You want to talk about Iraq? You want to say hundreds of thousands of people were killed in Iraq. How many people did Saddam Hussein kill? 180,000 Kurds alone, chemical genocide against Kurds, the ethnic cleansing of Turks,
and
of
we
Kurds,
backed them.
of Shia Muslims. So you want to say that if we should have just left Saddam Hussein, and he's expanding his war in Kuwait, his war in Iran, and you want to say that what the US did was so bad? Fine, it was bad, but before it was worse. And if it was left unchecked, how much worse would it be? So this isn't about what the facts are. This is about how you are looking at the facts. And this isn't, no, we don't interrupt. This is an intentional...
I was just going to ask a question. You interrupted me before, plenty of times.
Ask me my question after. You can ask me my question after.
You're not my teacher, so don't scold me.
Stop. We're not looking at this through the lens of fact. We're looking at this through the lens of how can we look at this in the most negative way so we don't support attacks on the regime. Second of all, this constant thing about Israel is the one that wants this war. We have all conceded and acknowledged that Israel does for obvious reasons. You're talking about, you take Israel and you take the IRGC, you take this terrorist regime that has enshrined an eschatological vision to eliminate Israel in its charter and has repeatedly acted on that vision. Any sane country in the world, whether it was US or Israel, would obviously want to protect itself. So you're talking about a liberal democracy that seeks safety and protection of its own people, and you're talking about a terrorist state that wants to eliminate that state. And so to even look at this in any other lens is just to be out of touch with reality. You talk about Israel doing these strikes on Hezbollah, when Hezbollah is the one that is throwing its rockets into Israel. You talk about its strikes on the Houthis. Think about this. The regime created Hezbollah as a second IRGC to station it in the closest border to Israel for the sole purpose of eliminating Israel and creating a second Islamic Republic in Lebanon. Now, you want to say that in response to that, Israel should just bend over and do nothing? Of course, Israel wants this war because it is.
How much more can Israel do?
It is
endless goddamn war because of Israel. Can I respond to this utter rubbish, this garbage Israeli propaganda?
Anti-Semitism is a mind virus, and you've lost your mind. Okay, so just be quiet.
Yeah. Anti-Semitism. Blah. We've heard that garbage over and over to shield Israel from criticism. We're not going to take it anymore. You call the whole country anti-Semites. You think Israel has called all of America anti-Semites. 85% of us don't want this war. And then you come in and go, you dirty anti-Semite Americans. You owe us more war. You owe us trillions of dollars. We are beloved Israel. We want endless wars.
One question for you, Cenk. One question for you. What percentage of Germans were anti-Semites? What
the hell does that have to do with this? The real fascists here are Israel.
Is that really a gotcha?
You want to ask me what percentage of Israel are fascists? Unfortunately, the percentage is over 50%.
You know what the point is, Cenk? The point is that it is a mind virus.
Can I actually answer any of this garbage that they're putting out there?
Can you stop interrupting her, please? It's getting, you're very rude. You're a very rude
interrupting her. She's gone on for 10 minutes.
How long do you think you went on, sir?
Okay.
Let me, Cenk, I'll give you a brief right of reply there, and then I want to go to the general.
So, guys, this is a total illusion. The country starting all the wars in the Middle East is Israel, not Iran. The ones that have the religious ideology of taking over the Middle East is Israel. They call it Greater Israel. It's a patch on their uniform. It's a map in their Knesset. They're trying, and their cabinet members say, we're going for Greater Israel. Greater Israel is most of the Middle East. The reason why knocking out their so-called nuclear program wasn't enough for these warmongers is because they want every country in the Middle East defenseless so Israel can attack and take more land. And have they actually attacked and taken more land? Yes, they currently have 53% of Gaza. They say they're never going to give back Golan Heights. They keep talking about how Israel should exist. Israel already exists, already has nukes, and is super dangerous with those nukes. They already have Iron Dome. They already have the greatest military in the Middle East. It's the Palestinians who don't exist because the Israelis won't allow them. The Israelis are doing a fascist a greater Israel project, and our press won't talk about it, even though the Israelis talk about it nonstop. We've shown video after video on the Young Turks of how they're going for greater Israel. And the idea that Iran is taking over their neighbors, they haven't taken over any neighbors. Israel keeps taking land while our press keeps lying to you and pretending that Israel's the victim when they are the aggressor, and they don't do it with their own money and they don't do it with their own troops. They force America to spend trillions of dollars and lose American soldiers. For Israel, 85% of this country does not want it. When you hear this propaganda telling you, no, Israel wants it, and if Israel doesn't get what it wants, we're going to call all of you anti-Semites. All you Americans are anti-Semites unless you give Israel $330 billion, spend $8 trillion on the global war on terror, and we want another war and another war. And then they pretend Iran wants endless war. Israel is making us pay for their endless war. Don't listen to the liars. Stand up for the American people,
you've made the
not
point.
the Israeli people. I'm looking at this propaganda. Now she's talking about how the Iraq war was a great idea.
You made your point, Cenk.
And how we're going to be greeted as liberators. That's what they told us in Iraq. No, the Iranian people also do not want to be bombed. That is an Israeli lie.
Okay, we're running out of time. I just want, you've actually reminded me, and I want to come to Dave Smith quickly for this, then go to the general. Tucker Carlson interviewed the US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, this week. And Mike Huckabee said something that managed to get condemnation from pretty much every other country in the region, because he said this.
This particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism, I want to go back because that's where we started on this.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Take it all, Dave, was the US ambassador to Israel.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad you played that clip. I'm about to do a whole show on breaking down that interview. I think one of the things that's so, I mean, aside from the fact that it's just like how insane and what a religious fundamentalist you have to be to believe that God gave Iraq to Netanyahu or something like that. But was really wild about this, as I'm sure the general can back up, that since at least the 1970s, the official U.S. position has been that we support 67 borders and that we ultimately want a Palestinian state. The U.S. is officially, not that we're going to do anything about any of that, but we're officially against the settlement expansions in the West Bank. And here you have the U.S. ambassador to Israel. I mean, it sure seems like he's the Israeli ambassador, if you ask me, but his title is he's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, just saying because of his religious beliefs that no, he would be absolutely fine with Israel not just taking the West Bank and Gaza and the Golan Heights as they have since 1967, but evidently, Pierce, taking huge swaths of Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and for anybody who does not believe that God promised Iraq to Netanyahu, that is just insanity. And then you do notice on this panel how a lot of people beat up on the mullahs for being religious extremists, and like, I got no beef with you on that. It certainly is true that they are. But as Cenk was pointing out, the level of extreme religious fanaticism that drives policy, both U.S. policy toward Israel and Israeli policy at the top of their government, there really is something to behold. We're not as secular and as one might believe. And I just want to say, and then I'll shut up for the rest of the panel, but I do got to say, man, Pierce, as I know you've seen all the time, you know, this thing where like if we start arguing that we shouldn't have war in Iran, then the response that we get is like, oh, you must secretly love the Ayatollah or something like that. The only reason you're doing this is because you want to protect that regime. This is like the lowest IQ, most bad faith form of political argumentation. And, you know, people did say the same thing about people like you, Pierce, and evidently people like you, General Clark, which I was unaware of, who opposed the war in Iraq. You were protecting Saddam Hussein or spreading Saddam talking points. Over the last couple years, Pierce, isn't it amazing just on your show, I love Vladimir Putin, and I love Hamas, and I also love Iran, and I guess I love the Houthis, but actually I'm just like a Jewish libertarian from Brooklyn who doesn't want to see more people get killed and my country get bankrupted. That's really the truth of this. And for all of you guys, your response is always, excuse me, no interrupting, little girl. And for all of you guys, listen, again, this is my...
If you don't want my opinion, don't invite me on.
Let me come to the General. General, before I come to you for the final word, because you deserve the final word.
You talked more than me, General.
I mean, Dave makes a very good point. I remember being called a Saddam apologist because I thought the illegal war in Iraq was an atrocity that should never have been waged. And I've similarly been called an anti-Semite because I think that the Israeli government went way too far in Gaza. All of these things are preposterous, and they're a deliberate attempt to stifle freedom of speech and genuine opinion. I think it's a great shame. I've known Cenk and Dave for quite a long time now. I've never heard a moment of anti-Semitism from either of them. And to say that that is what motivates them is a hatred of Jewish people is completely preposterous. Well, hang on, Elliga. I've got to. We've run out of time. I just want to say that
about Cenk, that's very disingenuous.
No, it's not. He's not anti-Semitic.
Nah, he has a big problem.
He has a big problem with the Israeli government. Let's not get into it.
Doing insults. Let General Clark talk.
If somebody can, for another show, but Elliga, if you want to go away and find me evidence of Cenk Uygur saying anything which indicates a hatred of Jewish people, that's fine. If you want to find me evidence where he says he hates Jewish people,
you want to talk about an Israeli point of view?
Show me evidence.
My existence offends you. And I'm the person who's a biggit. You're the bigot.
I didn't say that.
Let General Clark
I said your existence is the evidence.
Okay,
you literally said that.
I'm going to wrap things up. I'm going to wrap things up by coming to General Clark. So please give the General some respect. I can tell you that the money market, Polymarket, says there's a 21% chance of a US strike on Iran by March the 1st, 57% chance by March the 31st, 73% chance by the end of the year. Over $370 million has been spent in this market. So the smart money going on an attack by the end of March. Would you agree with that, General?
I'm going to leave it there because honestly, there's a lot to unpack. This debate didn't just get heated, it exposed some major disagreements about America's role in the world. And trust me, this isn't the end of it. There was another intense exchange involving the General and Cenk Uygur that deserves its own video, so if you'd like to see that, let me know. One thing that really caught my attention was who was making some of the strongest arguments. Unless I'm mistaken, one of the panelists appears to be from the UK, while another is Canadian. If that's correct, it's interesting that some of the loudest voices supporting a tougher US response weren't American. Considering it's the American people who would ultimately bear the consequences of any military action, that's a point worth thinking about. Cenk also raised an argument that many viewers will probably focus on. He pointed to polling suggesting that most Americans don't want another war with Iran. Whether you agree with him or not, it raises a bigger question. If elected leaders campaign on listening to the people, how should they respond when public opinion points in a different direction? That naturally brings us to Donald Trump. One of the defining messages of his campaigns was avoiding new foreign wars. Supporters may argue that world events can change quickly and leaders have to adapt. Critics, however, believe that even discussing military action appears to conflict with that campaign promise. That's why this issue has become so politically divisive. No matter where you stand politically, debates like this remind us how deeply divided people remain over American foreign policy. Some believe strength means projecting military power, while others believe real strength is avoiding another costly conflict. That's the debate at the heart of this entire discussion. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you think made the stronger case? Did Cenk Uygur and Dave Smith convince you, or do you think their opponents had the better arguments? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always enjoy reading different perspectives. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more political commentary, and I'll see you in the next one.